allow your eyes to close. Just allow yourself to have a moment of coming back internally. Of dropping deep into self. And just allow that. Allow your attention and your focus to anchor themselves in the world within you. Usually we're hyper-focused, hyper-attentive to everything in the world around us. Every sight, every sound, every smell, every movement. And meditation is not about dulling the senses, but it's about shifting that light of awareness on yourself. To focus on yourself. Because awareness is not something separate from us. We are, at the core, just pure consciousness, just pure awareness. So you let that light of your true self shine on your true self. Suddenly yourself is that which you are aware of. Suddenly your true self becomes that illumined in your light. Allow that light to shine. And as that light shines on yourself, remember that your true self is not your history or your emotions or your thoughts. So if any of those arise, just let them go, because they are not. They're not the true self that you're shining that light of awareness upon. So any time a thought emerges or arises that says, oh, you are this, or you are that, or what's for dinner, or it's cold, or anything like that, just allow that to flow and to blow across your consciousness, just the way that little wispy clouds blow across a blue sky on a windy day. And keep drawing that light of your awareness on your true self, that infinite, pure source, that soul, that source. Allow the light to shine on your self, on that within you that is one with the divine, that within you that is one with perfection. That which within you which is never broken and doesn't need to be fixed, but which is whole and has always been whole, has never been anything but whole. Allow the light of your pure awareness to shine on that truth of yourself. That you were never your body. That you were never your history or your stories. You are this infinite expansiveness. Feel the presence of that source within you. Of that which is infinite, perfect, expansive and spacious. That which is one with all of the universe. Shine that light of your awareness, your pure, full awareness on yourself. Slowly and gently bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub them against each other. And press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly lower the hands and open your eyes. Welcome to Satsang. So starting with one of the questions that's come in advance from our our online audience, Then we'll open it up to any questions that any of you might have. Can we love someone but not like them? This was asked by our brother Jeff via the website online. Can you love someone but not like them? Absolutely. Absolutely. The most common example of this is parents and their teenage children. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard teenagers say, I hate my mother or I hate my father. But of course they love them. What they mean is, right now I'm trying to individuate. I'm trying to have autonomy and I'm trying to make my own individual decisions, and they may be wrong decisions, and these people keep telling me what to do. They keep trying to clip my wings and keep me boxed up, and I hate them. And they mean it. They really mean it. They hate them with that ferocity that you would hate someone who was keeping you in jail or locking you in the basement. Because when we're young, especially in our teenage years, that striving for freedom really feels like that. That we just want to burst out. And I've heard many parents of teenagers say, you know what? I love them, but I just cannot stand to be around my son or my daughter right now. Like I do not like the person they are becoming. So that's the most common situation where it arises. And always they end up back not only in love, but they end up liking each other again in a few months, a few years. It's not a very long process. But I think it happens also in other of our relationships where, especially on spiritual levels, where we are really working to feel love for as many beings as we can. You know, the practice of love is a deep, deep spiritual practice. Teachings and commands, love all, feed all, serve all. These are really common teachings that spiritual masters give. Love all. It's the teaching that Jesus Christ gave in the Bible as well. I mean, it's not only teachings that we get in our Hindu scriptures, but they're really across the board general spiritual teachings. Love all. Well, but if you don't even know everyone, how can you possibly like them if you don't even know them? And therefore, how can you love them? But the teaching on that deep spiritual level is not, well, I need to know you so then I like you, and then if I like you a lot, maybe it becomes love. But it's, I recognize that you are one with God, and I love God, therefore I love you. Like I love every blade of grass, like I love every tree, like I love every drop of water. Because I love the Creator. It's like, imagine you've got a 3-year-old, and your 3-year-old goes off to nursery school. And at nursery school, they draw pictures, and your 3-year-old comes home with a piece of construction paper with scribbles drawn all over it. And you say, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Wow. And you put that up on the fridge, or you frame it in your office. Now, anyone else would walk by and say, what is that? Like it's a piece of construction paper and scribbles. It's nothing. It's not even attractive. But to you, You love it. Why? Because you love the creator of it. And since you love the creator, you love the creation. It's why our kids can make us anything and we love it. An art project, a painting, a drawing. My mom used to have 2 cats who she just adored, like really, really, really adored. And one of the cats would bring her dead birds. Now, if you've ever had a cat, that's considered a really, like a very special gift. It is considered a sign of great love for a cat to bring its bird that it's killed to you. Because otherwise the cat eats the birds. But here it's presenting its most precious, prime thing to you. It's a great gift. And I remember when the cat used to bring these bloody dead birds into the house and leave them right in front of my mother's bedroom door. And my mom, trying to deal with the love that she had for the cat that was bringing her these really gross, sort of half-mutilated dead birds, with the fact that that which was being offered was nauseating and awful. But because she loved the cat so much, she'd see the dead bird, and her first reaction, instead of being, oh my God, was, oh, sweetheart, you brought me another gift. And I remember growing up thinking, Mom, like, how can you possibly have any reaction other than to basically close your eyes and feel like you're going to throw up when you see this dead bird? But because she loved the cat so much, she could see the love of the cat for her in the bird. Now, the reason that I give you these stories is because one of the ways that we would love someone without liking them is on a very deep spiritual level, where we love the Creator, we love God. We recognize that everyone has been created not just by but of the divine. And therefore, every aspect of the creation is that which we aim to, we work to, feel love for. So that's one way. I might not even know you. But if my spiritual practice is going well, I should be able to love you, even without knowing you. Because I love God. And I should be able to see God in you, like you see your child in the scribbles on your fridge. And so it makes you smile with love. The other way is much more the way of the parents and the teenagers, where you're in a specific personal relationship with someone. You know you love them, but there's aspects of that person, of their behavior, of their choices, that you really don't like. And that's okay. Just because you love someone doesn't mean that you have to always like them, or that you have to like their actions. What's important is that you're able to keep anchoring in love, because in love you can see them as soul to soul, rather than just as physical body to physical body. And so, especially in someone with whom you do have a deep relationship, a lifetime relationship, parents to children, hopefully spouses to each other, siblings to each other. Far too many people have this, not so much in India, thankfully, but in America, so many people you talk to say, oh yeah, I haven't spoken to my brother in 30 years, or haven't spoken to my father in 20 years. And people just, they cut off relationships with a really tragic frequency and a tragic ease, that there's something that someone does that they don't like, that hurts them. And so they cut off the relationship. One of the things that's so beautiful, I think, about Indian and kind of Eastern culture in general, with that emphasis on the family, is that we're able to search for love even if there isn't necessarily liking. And it doesn't mean we approve of what each other does. It doesn't mean we support it. But it means that we're able to find a love that exists even when liking doesn't exist. Because a lot of times liking, as I said, it's temporary. Your kid is acting out, they're being obnoxious, they're running with the wrong crowd, they're trying on a new personality that doesn't fit them so well. They're going through a stage of rebellion. Whatever it may be. But it's a stage. It's a phase. And when we can really hold anchored in love, then we get through those phases still together, rather than losing and breaking these bonds of love. So yeah, absolutely you can. Don't worry if that happens in your life. Other questions? Yes.
During meditation,
I'm so sorry?
During meditation, there is a lot of thoughts comes. Why? And what is the solution of it?
Great. So in meditation, a lot of thoughts come. Why and what's the solution? So why? Because that's the nature of the mind. It's like saying, I've got this bunny rabbit and all it does is it hops. Why does my bunny rabbit hop around so much? Or, I've got this dog and it just barks. Why does my dog bark all the time? Well, that's the nature of the dog. It's the nature of the bunny rabbit. The bunny rabbit hops, the dog barks, the mind thinks. It's what the mind does. The solution? Meditation. Working with the mind in meditation is the solution. Because you're never going to get your mind to stop thinking, and you don't want your mind to stop thinking. You want the mind to think. It's what the mind does for us that's very helpful. If you need to balance your checkbook, or you need to make a decision, or you need to figure something out, or learn a new skill, understand something, if you didn't have the mind thinking, you'd never be able to do anything. You couldn't follow a recipe. You couldn't read a book. You couldn't have an intelligent conversation. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't hold down a career. We need the minds to think. Thinking is our friend. As long as we are thinking about what we want to be thinking about, when we want to be thinking. The problem with the thinking mind is it runs on its own. That's the problem. So the goal is not to stop the mind from thinking, but the goal is to gain an element of control over what am I thinking and when am I thinking. So in the same way that running is really good for you, it's great exercise, if you could never stop running, that would be a problem. You'd get very tired very quickly. Eventually you'd injure your legs, your back. You could never sleep, you could never eat, you could never do anything. You would die. So that which is great for your health, when you are able to control when you begin and when you stop, would kill you if you did not have it under control. And in the same way, we would like our minds to come into our control. We should be able to say, I'm going to India. Okay, let me figure out which flight to take, what visa to get, where to go, what to pack. That's thinking mind work. But then when you get here, and you're sitting on the banks of Ganga, you want to be able to have that thinking mind stop. There's no need for it to be planning where are you going to go tomorrow, or what are you going to have for dinner, or when do you need to start packing to leave to go home. Then that's counterproductive. So what meditation does is it helps us with different techniques and tools. Learn to find some space between the thoughts. Learn to find a self that is not the thoughts. And learn to identify as and anchor in that spaciousness that is aware we are thinking, that is present in the space between the thoughts as much as it is in the thought itself. So we meditate to train the minds, to train the brains, and to give ourselves a glimpse, an experience of who we are that is not the thoughts. Yeah, great. Other questions? Yes.
Namaskar. So from past 10 years, I have been going through a cyclical nature of failures. And
Just come a little closer to the mic.
am I audible now?
Yes, now you are.
Yeah. So from past 10 years, I have been going through a cyclical nature of failures. Every time I start with new energies but fail miserably after some period of time. Can you suggest what's happening in life and how can I rectify and I can do good in my life?
Sure, great. So there's a lot of reasons for continued failure. Lots of reasons. One reason is that which you are trying to do is not actually what your dharma is. If I set my mind to the fact that I was going to be a professional athlete, that I was going to play on a professional basketball team or a professional football team. Now, I could set my mind to it. I could try really hard with full dedication and vigor. And maybe if I had started 40, 45 years ago, despite being small in size, I might have had a chance. You know, if I started at 5, 7 years old, you begin your life, you do it your whole life, you can get good at it. But to start at 52 years old, at my size, doesn't matter how much I practice, doesn't matter what great coaches I might hire, doesn't matter how much I might set my mind to it, it's not going to happen. It's not in that which is written for me. We all have different skills, we have different abilities, we have different opportunities. We have different karmic journeys. And so, two people may go into business. One of them becomes a great success, the other doesn't. Because for the other one, their karmic journey is different. So that's one possible reason. Another possible reason is something much deeper psychologically. A lot of us, on an unconscious and subconscious level, we have sabotage, where we actually harm ourselves and prevent ourselves from accomplishing that which we decide we're going to set out to do. We start something, we're doing great, and just when we are about to really succeed, somehow we make something happen, we create a situation in such a way, And again, it's not usually conscious that it fails. And this is actually really quite common. And sometimes we do it because on a deep-seated level we feel, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve. And so in a very warped but all too common way that a lot of our psyches work, we would rather be proven right to ourselves that you're right, I'm not worthy. You're right, I'm a failure. You're right, I'm not good enough. That's safer and more comfortable than to actually succeed and to prove our beliefs false. So we self-sabotage. I've heard people who are experts in the science around birth trauma talk about actually sometimes babies who have to be brought out in an emergency cesarean section, or who get brought out, God, so beautiful, who get brought out, yeah, that was really special. Sometimes we get beautiful visitors. Babies who end up stuck in the birth canal and end up needing to be brought out through an emergency cesarean section. When I was a baby, they were pulling a lot of babies out with forceps. I don't think they do that so much anymore, but some kind of a medical intervention. And how, interestingly, a lot of those people unconsciously develop the inability to finish things because in their birth there was, in a very, very deep way, of sanskaras, long before their thinking mind was even formed. But this sanskara went in of not finishing things, of essentially needing to be bailed out at the last minute. That in the same way that I couldn't push myself through a birth canal, I recreate that pattern over and over and over again. And so I know people who do work with sort of rebirthing, and I can't advocate for it. I've never done it. I don't know it personally, but I do know that there are a lot of people who do that and who mention that certain birth traumas can create patterns like this in life. So it might be interesting to just find out, were you brought out by cesarean section? Okay, so that might be, I'm not saying it is, but it might be an interesting thing to really think about, how that birth has impacted the rest of your life, that it essentially taught you on a very, very deep unconscious but cellular level, you can't actually finish the job. You can start it, but somebody's going to have to come in and finish that for you or take it away from you. So there's a lot of reasons for that type of failure. Another last reason simply is it's not the right time yet. Right? I mean, there's all kinds of stories of super, super, super famous authors with super famous books who were rejected by 20, 30, 50 publishers before they finally get published and it becomes, an international classic that people are reading for 100 years. So don't feel badly about the failure, but use it as a way to introspect and ask yourself, number one, might there be some psychic peace, meaning peace around my psychological state, that's creating this? Am I self-sabotaging for some reason? Is there a pattern of thought, a pattern in my cells, a sanskara that's making this happen? Am I recreating that birth pattern? Or maybe this just isn't my dharma. Maybe whatever it is I'm trying is just not what is written for me. And eventually, if you keep rowing your boat, and it goes nowhere, and you finally look and realize you're rowing it upstream, well, that would be a good time to turn around the boat and start trying to row along with the current of life rather than against the current of life. So don't feel badly. There's definitely a reason for it, even if we don't know exactly which one it is. But try working internally with these 3 different possibilities and see what feels right for you, and then work with it in that way. Great. Yeah, other questions? Yes. Yeah, in the back, come forward.
What is the best way to deal with? What is the best way to deal with deception?
What is the best way to
Deal with deception.
deal with deception?
Yes.
As in, other people have deceived you.
Yeah, like someone I really trusted deceived me.
Got it. So the best way to deal with that kind of deceit, what we call betrayal, if a con man on the street deceives you, it's just run-of-the-mill deceit, they're a con man. When someone we know and trust and love deceives us, it's betrayal. But the way to deal with both of them is exactly the same, which is you forgive. You forgive. Because holding on to anger and pain just makes it worse. One of my favorite quotations says, getting angry is like drinking poison but expecting the other guy to die. So somebody deceives me, but I become angry. I'm the one who suffers. So you forgive them. It doesn't mean you do business with them again. It doesn't mean you trust them again. It doesn't mean that you go back into the same relationship again. I mean, trust absolutely needs to be earned. And if someone has betrayed your trust, by all means, they need to earn it again. But the best thing to do for you is forgive them so that you can be free. It's like saying, what is the best thing to do if you're walking down the street and somebody comes and stabs you in the side? What's the best thing to do? Walking down the street, somebody comes and literally with a knife stabs you? Best thing to do, anyone? Yeah, ambulance. Right? We all agree? Ambulance, hospital. Any different ideas? We all understand that that's the only thing to do, because if you don't do it, you're going to die. Nobody would say, find and hunt the guy down who did it. Go to the police station, file a report. Because you'll die on the way. The only thing to do is go to the hospital, call the ambulance, get to the doctor ASAP. Fix yourself. And that's what forgiving does. Doing anything else is the equivalent of running down the street, chasing the guy who stabbed you, or going to the police station before you go to the hospital. You're just going to kill yourself. So you've got to forgive. If you want to keep living, you must forgive. It will become a vice around your heart and around your lungs. You will not be able to breathe. You will not be able to live. So we forgive to get that vice off of our heart and off of our lungs.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Namaskar, this is a question related to my job. I'm working as a superintendent in Tihar jail. And when I interact with the new prisoners, some of them whom I meet, they say, I have not done anything wrong. I'm been framed.
I'm so sorry, I didn't understand.
When I interact with the prisoners, some of the prisoners says we have not done anything wrong. We have been framed. And when I hear the story, I'll give you a small example. Once I met a boy who was well educated, and he was brought in the case of chain snatching. So when I heard his story, he said that I was just sitting on a pillow ride of my friend, and he did the snatching, and I also framed.
I was framed.
Yeah,
Done.
so I want basically guidance how to deal with these type of persons. Thank you.
Now, you work in the jail itself, right? You're not the judge who gets to decide what happens to them. And it's an important distinction because if you were the judge, you'd actually have a lot more power to do something different. Unfortunately, the person who works in the jail doesn't get to determine guilt or innocence. A tragedy of the legal system is that it doesn't always bring justice. It should. It's what it's there for. But sometimes due to corruption, sometimes due to just human error, sometimes due to a very good lawyer on one side, not such a good lawyer on the other side, you end up in a situation where the innocent get framed, they don't have the money for a good lawyer, and they end up stuck. It is a tragedy. The only thing I can think of for you to actively do, in addition to providing this young man and people like him with love and acceptance and whatnot, is to get him in touch with organizations that I imagine must exist in India. I know they exist in America. They must exist here. That are dedicated to doing the legal work in cases. There must be humanitarian NGO type of legal cells that work for unjustly accused people. And the best thing you could do is do research, find some of them, connect him to some of them, and help him get better representation. You probably even actually know other avenues that I'm not aware of. Absolutely help him. If somebody has not done something and they're unfairly convicted, help him. But until he gets out, you can also help him spiritually and just understand that sometimes life really doesn't seem fair. And that the best thing he can do, instead of getting more and more angry and more bitter, is to use this time, use it to study, use it to learn. As a perch snatcher, I assume he's not, or a chain snatcher, I assume he's not in like super high security. So he must have access to a library, he must have access to other things that he can learn. Encourage him to use that time to study, to learn. People get degrees in jail. Help him use that time without being angry, without being bitter, so that when he gets out, he's actually a better person than the one who went in. Good. And last question. Yeah, last for tonight.
I wanted to ask you, I feel in a shock of perhaps of rejection, of a master, which I have been together with for some days, and in earlier times we have been together, and there was a real deep flowing between us. And then I, like here, I wanted to say something and to take contact with him. And he didn't react on me anymore. For 4 days, 5 days, no reaction. And if I feel into myself, I feel really deeply full of disillusion, deep disillusion, and like a sort of stuck in me concerning my spiritual way and development. I feel really also when I speak about it.
Yeah, I understand.
Sad.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Sad, really sad, and because it's a really awakened person, which is really a German one, who is really developed. He seemed to be a really good teacher for me, and now I'm really deeply disillusionated. And
So let me ask you just one question about this. You mentioned that this rejection that you felt from the Master, that it began when you raised your hand to say something. Did you actually say something, and based on that, the rejection came, or did he not even acknowledge that you had raised your hand?
he said to me when I really came up, and he really, he said to me, I didn't realize that I didn't take your signals, you know. I didn't realize. And it's not that I want to blame him or something.
Of course.
It's just I'm really sad of it, you know.
Okay.
Because I couldn't reach him. And
Okay. Yeah, so I understand. You can sit down. You can sit down. Yeah, you can sit down. So this rejection that you feel from the Master, he, just quickly to summarize, he has a master, a gentleman who feels to him like an enlightened being, a beautiful teacher for him, who he always felt a great flow with. But recently, he felt like he was cut off. He had raised his hand to say something. He wasn't seen, wasn't acknowledged. The Master didn't notice him. Then for many days ignored him. And all of the sadness and feelings of rejection. So, first of all, remember that the point of a spiritual master is not to make our ego feel good. The point of a spiritual master is not to heal our childhood wounds. The point of a spiritual master is not to reparent us. The point of a spiritual master is not to take the place of our husband, wife, mother, father, child, whoever we are longing for, the love of that we didn't get. Now, they may end up doing some of those things. I know that the wounds that I carried from my childhood were healed through the presence and the teachings of my guru. But not because he came in with this agenda of I'm going to heal her wounds by, make her feel better. But actually through a very tough teaching, what we would call tough love. because what he was trying to do was make me understand I was not the victim I identified as. I was not the one who suffered in the way that I thought I was suffering, that I was not my story. Now, your longing to be recognized, to be seen, to have this almost magical one-to-one, even in the midst of a crowd relationship with the Master, is a beautiful yearning. And when you have that, I know it feels like there is nothing better in the entire universe. It's like, I don't need to eat, I don't need to sleep, I just want to keep feeling this divine connection. And yet, the Master's role and the Master's goal is not about getting you addicted to that energetic feedback from the Master. If it's a real Master, their goal is not to make you now just dependent on them instead of being dependent upon someone else. Their goal is to set you free. Now, you may physically live with the Master for 50, 60, 80, 100 years. But regardless of how long you are in the physical presence, the Master's goal is to set you free internally. Internally. So that you don't need that. I cannot tell you the number of times in the first couple of years that I literally burst into tears sitting with Puja Swamiji, because suddenly in that moment, he said something, and it would be minor, it would be tiny. I would bring in a piece of work, and he would say something like, maybe instead of saying it like this, you could say it like that. And to me, it was this, oh my God, I've been rejected. Oh my God. Anything other than you are perfect and wonderful felt to me like this horrible rejection. My eyes would fill with tears. He then would look at me and say, leave this room until you can stop making faces. Don't make that face, he would say. And I would start to cry, and I'm not making faces, I'm crying, you hurt me. He'd say, leave, now. Out. Out. Make me stand up and walk out. Out. Now, you could look at that and say, my God, that's not compassion. Like, here you are crying in front of him, and he's telling you, get out. It was the most compassionate thing in the world he could have done for me, because I was so identified as my drama and my story that, and the moment, by the way, that I finally became okay, it took me hours many times, but became okay, washed my face and came back. He was all there, present and wonderful again. It was, I'm not going to sit here and be party to you in the midst of your drama. You want to do that drama? Do it somewhere else. I don't have time. And to, even while I am here in the physical presence, but set me free from that need of the constant, like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, I'm here with you, you're wonderful, you're good enough, I promise. Promise you're good, promise you're wonderful. That's the way that the Master works. And I'm wondering whether you haven't taken this, what feels like rejection, but that may actually be a very deep lesson from the Master. Of, we're connected. Just because I don't call on you when you raise your hand doesn't mean we're not connected. just because I was present with someone else and didn't even notice your hand being raised doesn't mean we're not connected. It's like if a mother has children and one child is running a fever and on the edge of death, and the other child, comes home with an A on the report card and the mother doesn't pay any attention. Well, it's not that she no longer loves that child or that she's rejecting that child. It's just that in that moment, this one dying of fever needs a lot more attention. And maybe in those days there were other members of your Sangha, of your community, who needed that attention of the Master more than you did. Maybe the message that he's teaching you is, you are much stronger than you think. Even if I don't call on you, you're fine. We're there, we're connected. You don't need to feel like the teacher's pet. It's okay, I'm here with you. And that may be a very deep lesson. So before you decide that you've really been rejected, I would go back and I would say, this is how I'm feeling. And see what he says. There are masters, and I've just shown you that Puja Swamiji is one of them, who, when we are in the midst of a drama, that really is just a drama. I mean, if I was in the midst of something serious in my life, where I really needed his guidance and his presence, he'd be there in a second. But we go through these psychic dramas where we think we need something so much more than we really do. We think we're so much weaker than we really are. We think we're suffering so much more than we are. It's this illusion of the games of the mind. And good masters are not going to go along with playing a role you've written for them in a script of your own drama. They want you to wake up. Get out of the dream. It's like, in my dream I'm suffering, and could you please come and join me in my dream of suffering and, save me from my suffering in my dream. Well, the Master wants you to wake up. They're not there to save you from suffering in a dream. Because they know that when you wake up, the suffering is over anyway. So go back. Ask him. Don't go in, accusing you or rejecting me. But go in and just humbly ask, what is your teaching here? What am I meant to learn? If he's someone who your heart really feels is the right teacher for you, then trust yourself. Even though the ego is having a really hard time right now, trust that heart. And go back and ask him, what is my teaching here? What am I supposed to be learning? And then see. It may turn out that your days of learning from that master are over. But it may turn out that you're in store for a very, very deep teaching. And I wouldn't deprive myself of that possibility quite so quickly. Okay? Good. Yeah. We're gonna stop for tonight, but we'll take you first thing tomorrow. Okay? And we can follow up on this more tomorrow as well. It's a great subject. The workings of the Guru. Wonderful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone.